guys might remember this car. This is the one that we took to Beaton and won. And this is the car we took to Bolton. That we didn't do very good in mini car, but we did really good in big car. We may not have won, but sometimes it's not all about winning and losing. It's about track shotting people. And in Bolton, this thing was so mangled, there was no sense to even attempt to fix it. So I just sent it in Bolton. But now derby season's over. And we're not going to fix this because of how bad it is. But we are going to save this hood. This hood meant a lot to us. Just going to straighten it out. And that's going to go on the wall of hoods that have meant something to me. Because this right here is another win in my hometown. And this one was to remember my grandfather with, because that was his hometown as well. So this car is at a point in its life where it can never be ran again. And the reason for that is just because of how bad it is. If you take a look at this frame is in a straight line right there. And we're almost on a 30-degree angle to the car. The frame has gone back on itself, in, and then out. And then you can see it crimple right down there all the way back. Now, that's the driver's side. The passenger side is not as bad, but it's still pretty bad. You can see where it clearly folded on itself back there. But this car's still good. Still runs. Actually, I just tried stopping it. It doesn't stop no more. But it still runs. It still attempts to drive. If it didn't have a broken axle, it would still run and drive. We do not have alternator because alternators suck, but we don't have one. We did break off the vacuum line to the bottom of this valve up here, which is mandatory to make these cars run. So that will have to be fixed. You can see it just clearly hanging down right here. Let me just pull that. Oh, I just broke it. But there's what I need to have this thing run again, is that. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to basically make it so that we can build a standalone harness for this car. Because I do have a harness for the newer style, but I do not have one for these older styles. Now this one here is simplified, but I've seen a couple buddies simplify these cars much, much more than what this one is. So we're going to simplify this even more than what it is. And it's quite easy to do. What we do is we just test and probe and see what we can get rid of and what we can keep, and then we'll build a harness off of that. Let's get going. The first thing we got to do is remove the stuff that's in our way, like this bar, this bumper, maybe this fender, basically to get us closer to this motor so we can get in there and do our wiring. We will probably remove the dash bar as well. Sorry, the window bar, the dual window bars up to the light. And then we'll clean all the leaves out so we can actually see what we're dealing with on the inside, and then we'll throw a battery into it and make sure this thing still runs. And I'll show you guys how I make my harnesses. And just like that, the whole front of this car is cut off. Just run the Sawzall down and just cut it square off, all the way down the frame rails on both sides. Just kind of nicked the pulley, but that's fine. She'll survive and live another day. But I'm really impressed with this Mazda 3 bumper. I know you guys are probably sick and tired in hearing me talk about these Mazda 3 bumpers, but this Mazda 3 bumper was on the front of a Mazda 3 for 2 demolition derbies. And it was basically a heat and finals and then another heat. So that's basically 3 runs on a Mazda. And then I put this on the front of an Accord, which did 1 heat, and I broke a spindle. And then it went to another derby where it did heat and finals with a lot of cars, and it didn't even move. And then I cut it off the front of an Accord, and I put it on a Toyota Camry. And on the Camry, it actually went to Beaton, where it did heat and feature and pulled out a first place heat finish and a first place feature win. And then it went to Bolton, where it took 4th in the heat of mini car and then 3rd in the heat of big car. And realistically, the bumper did give way, but if you look at the backside, the backside of this bumper really hasn't moved at all. There's that bolt that I drilled a hole through and never took it out. But there's no added steel to this bumper at all. And I am super, super impressed with this. And I have a buddy now that's actually running Mazda 3 bumpers who has not been able to bend his yet. So I'm going to try to get my hands on a couple more of these Mazda 3 bumpers. They're not long, but they really do hold up. The first thing that we're going to do is, now that the front end's cut off this car, we're going to make sure this thing still runs. And I just threw a battery into it. I'm going to touch the positive off it for the starter. You can hear the fuel pump and see the light thanks to the Beaton rules. And ready? Still runs, that's a good sign. Yeah, she still runs. Toyota Camrys, they're a little bit different than the newer ones in the fact that they have distributors and the newer ones have coil packs. So that's one of the main differences. But the difference that you guys may not know is on this one, the harness actually comes from the control panel on the driver's side fender to the motor. On the newer ones, this harness goes into the fender to the inside. So this right here feeds the inside and everything else is on the outside. I've seen these cars before where people have actually got rid of this complete harness, and it actually looks pretty good. It looks very simple, and unfortunately I don't know how to do that yet. So now that this car is not able to do any more demolition derbies, it has now become our guinea pig. And this is what I'm telling you guys. If the car is too mangled to go back into a demolition derby, turn it into a guinea pig so that you learn more about the cars. So that if you screw something up and the car stops running, it doesn't really matter because the car's going to go to scrap anyways. I would like to keep this motor because I know it runs and I know it runs good, and I just put a new timing belt because in Beaton the timing belt broke on this, so I put a new timing belt in it to run Bolton. But I still don't want to mess it up. I have a couple Camrys out back that need motors, so to be able to put this one into one of those would make it really, really nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out where the wires go. And we're going to test these, and we're going to stick a tester light into them. We're going to find out which ones are positive and which ones are negative and where they feed inside the car. And we're just going to basically, the ones that go to the engine, we're going to leave right now. Those ones are fine. We're not going to mess with those. We're just going to mess with the stuff that goes onto the inside. Once it's out and the engine is running, then I'll start messing around with the actual engine harness and see if I can simplify it even more. Because if I'm going to be pulling motors, I don't want to be struggling with wiring. I just want a simple harness I can plug into a car and basically plug and play from one car to the next. So as of right now, this car runs, and it runs good. Now let's see if we can make it keep running good in a different car. Or in this one until at least we simplify the harness. With the front end of this car cut off, we were able to access a lot more of the electrical, and we even got rid of that whole panel. So with this whole panel removed, garbage, we've been basically able to eliminate just about all of this wiring right here. We still have to keep these 2 units here on the driver's side fender. Just remove some of the spray foam from around those. But yes, these 2 here are still needed. Now, these can be moved to the transmission, so that way they're out of the way of impact or anything fun like that. But as it sits right now, all that's gone, everything's been cut out of it. All the wires that used to go to the inside are now cut out of it. All the main harness here is cut out of it. Everything that I do not need is cut out. We still have this sensor on the firewall. What we've done is we've plugged into the fuel tank. You can obviously hear it running with the toggle switch. And we've gone right to the top of the computer, and then to the one connector here. We had about 5 positives. We just touch this off there, just like the newer one. Now, this is still untested. So again, I do not want to give out these harnesses until I'm able to actually test them. But as far as I can tell, this thing's running good. So it's running good, and I'm pretty happy about that, but that's all I can do really, is just keep fiddling around with these things. There's still more I would like to do to this motor. I'd like to do the EGR delete you guys are used to seeing me doing now, just because it gives me all that extra clearance on the back of the motor, and any extra clearance you get is better. Rev happy, my friend. Right back down to idle. So that is my video for today, and the basic message of this will work for a lot of different cars, not only Toyota Camry. All you have to do is have a car that is destined for the scrapyard, and you have to have a couple hours you can spend on the wiring. That is it. This thing is pretty much ready to go, and I'd love to test out this wiring harness, and I'll get back to you guys on it. So take care, and thanks for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow. How about a little bit more red line for you? Just for you guys. See you back here tomorrow. Take care.